I want them to walk in and be excited, but also be curious, like, wow, what's about to happen?
Van Antwerp Middle School is one of our greatest assets as a school district, but also one of our greatest challenges.
We want to hold on to the unique charm of the building, but bring it into the present day in a way that helps our children, our students, and our families be ready for their future. Make sure everyone is having a say in that.
It was built in a different time, and the needs in education, the needs of our students has evolved over time, but the buildings have not.
You can see it in the walls, the ceilings that leak, the bathrooms that have sinks that don't work. Just walking down the hall can be difficult to do because of the different levels here, the lack of wheelchair accessibility.
So our students have classes all throughout this corridor, and then we get to this interesting conundrum. Do I take the stairs? Do I take the ramp down, only to take the ramp up? And this is the only passageway to get to the other wing of Van Antwerp Middle School.
The cafeteria, other than a window on the door, doesn't have any windows. There's no natural flow.
It's a basement-style room that isn't warm, isn't welcoming, and isn't a place where people want to linger.
You know, if we could have flexible spaces that pique their interests every day. Spaces that allow students to meet and collaborate and build those social skills and makes the students feel safe taking risks, that would be great.
We've got the energy and the ideas to do really great things with our 5th and 6th graders. We just need the space to be able to take our instructional programs to the next level.
This project provides us an opportunity to finish the important work of transforming what middle-level education looks like.